Hi, this is Stories to Fall Asleep or in Love To. I'm Jo, known as the traumatized poet on social media, and I've written these stories both as a coach and as an artist to help you understand what it's like to truly be loved, seen, cared for, and fought for. I record these episodes in my cupboard. The only witnesses are a teapot named Cliff, and now you. I hope you settle, I hope you can relax, and I hope you sleep tight. Enjoy. The film, his point of view. We were the only two people at the party not drinking. You stood at the coffee machine like you owned it, like making espresso was your quiet rebellion against the red cups and vodka haze. I hovered nearby, pretending to look for something in the fridge, but really I was just watching you. Shoulders relaxed, expression unreadable. You looked like peace in a room full of static. You turned to me and asked, "Want one too?" Your voice calm, like the question had always been mine to answer. "God, yes," I said, and you smiled, soft but not small, like maybe this moment meant something. You handed me the mug, our fingers brushing, and something in that contact woke up the part of me I thought I'd buried months ago. Then it happened. A strand of hair slipped down your cheek, and in my mind I reached for it, slow, gentle, wanting to touch you without making it a thing. But you beat me to it, tucked it behind your ear like you felt the thought mid-air. I watched you after that, not in the way men garb, but in the way artists stare at things they know they'll never paint again. You said, "Come with me." We ended up in the master bedroom because it was quiet, because neither of us wanted to be seen, but both of us wanted to be felt. You sat on the edge of the bed, said, "I just want to forget, for one night." And I didn't answer right away. I paused, and I just leaned in and kissed you. It wasn't sweet. It was aching, clumsy, real. The kind that comes from months of being untouched. Our clothes came off quickly, not rushed, just desperate to feel something that wasn't regret. We had sex like strangers who'd known each other in another life, like people trying to turn the noise off with skin. You didn't cry, I didn't speak. Our bodies moved hard, then slow, like we were making love to the silence between two storms. When it was over, you fixed your dress in the mirror. I buttoned my shirt with shaky hands. No goodbyes, just a look, just a nod, just separate doors in a night that never really ended. And still, that strand of hair, the way you tucked it back, that's the moment I kept. And as you walked down the hallway, something in me shifted. I'd been drowning for months, but that night, for the first time, I kicked toward the surface because you existed. A couple of weeks later, I didn't expect to see you again. Definitely not there, not in that bar, not on a night when I came to drink my own wreckage away. My ex worked the bar. That was the whole reason. Pathetic, I know. But there's a strange comfort in watching someone who hurt you pretend you don't exist. Except this time, I didn't look at her, not once, because you were there. In a booth near the wall, wearing that same quiet exhaustion you wore the night we undressed grief together. But tonight, you weren't alone. He sat across from you, leaning too far in, grabbing your wrist like it was his. He looked like someone who had never been told no, like a red flag with a wallet, an opinion about crypto. And you were smiling, but only with your mouth. Your eyes were somewhere else. Maybe in that bedroom. Maybe in the night that we met. Maybe already trying to leave. When he put his hand on your thigh, like he owned it, something in me snapped. I didn't think, I just stood, walked over to your table like I had a right to, and said, "Hey," looking straight at you. "Sorry to interrupt, but it's time for you to leave, man. She doesn't want you." I signaled him the door. The guy looked up at me like he wanted to fight but not enough to lose. I gave him the look, and he left his drink half finished, and his ego behind. You stared at the condensation on your glass as I sat down across from you. "Why would you put up with that?" I asked. You didn't answer right away, just traced a circle into the red ring on the table. "Because I forgot what it felt like to be treated like I was more than just company." We didn't say much right after he left. You just sipped your drink like it had betrayed you and leaned back like you hadn't breathed out in weeks. I asked if you wanted another. You said only if I was having one too. So we stayed, round after round, then small talk turning into big talk we didn't mean to have. You told me about your ex, I told you about mine, and I swear she looked jealous just over from the bar. You laughed like it hurt, and I did too, because honestly, some stories only make sense after they've broken us. We stayed until the bar lights blinked on, too bright, too honest. Everyone shuffled out like regret wrapped in coats. "Can I walk you home?" I asked. You hesitated, but only for a breath, and said, "Only if you don't just want to kiss me at my doorstep and disappear again." I smiled. "I'd like to come up for coffee." She says, "Then come up for coffee." Your apartment was warm, small, the kind of space that felt like someone lived there on purpose. We didn't go straight to the bedroom. You really did make coffee. We sat on the couch, mugs steaming, knees touching, talking in half whispers like the night might overhear us and change its mind. And then you looked at me, really looked. "Do you ever think about that night?" I nodded, more than I should. You set your cup down, took mine from my hands, and leaned in, slower this time, like we weren't running anymore, like we knew what it meant now. We peeled back the layers with reverence. Clothes fell to the floor like we didn't need to pretend this was casual. When I was inside you, you whispered, "Don't go anywhere." And I said, I wasn't planning to. We moved like the second time was the real one. No ache, no apology, just yes. After the second round, you curled into me and started talking like we hadn't just been naked. You told me you were a poet, said it like a confession, like it cost you something. It was the most intriguing thing about you. Not your face, not your laugh, but the way you carried words like weapons and wounds, like maybe they'd saved you once and now you owed them everything. You said you were making a short film, a poetry series, each scene like a crime report on heartbreak, on cheating, on how to survive it. You were the female lead. You needed someone to play the man. "You mean the guy who hurt you?" I said, and she smiled. Maybe the one who stayed, depends on how you read the ending." "You want me to play him?" "I need someone who can touch me without pretending it's nothing." And I said yes, because if you were going to rebuild yourself on camera, I wanted to be the one who stood beside you when the credits rolled. Production lasted a month. All the budget went to the production company. The actors were unpaid, sourced from real life. That's why she chose me. The first scene was the fight, the one where it all breaks. I had to grab her wrist. Not hard, just enough to make the moment real. But I froze. "You okay?" I whispered. "Just don't hold back," she said. "It has to hurt a little." And it did. The scene unraveled like déjà vu. Her story was my story too, but we never talked about it, never said it out loud. I said the words she wrote, but they were already mine. Different names, same wreckage. I kept waiting for her to notice, to pause between takes and say, "Is this familiar for you too?" But she never did, and I didn't ask, because some truths feel like traps. And I didn't want to know if she'd bled like me or just borrowed my words for a better art. Not when we shot the fight in the hotel, me on the sofa, her packing in silence, delivering lines I once heard in real time when I didn't stop her from leaving. Not during the scene where she turned away from me in bed, same breath pattern, same ache in her spine as the boy who walked out without explanation. I didn't have to act. I just remembered. And for some reason, when production wrapped, she disappeared. No call, no message. Weeks passed, silence stayed. I kept checking my phone, like it owed me something, like maybe she'd say, "Can we talk?" or "Thanks for everything." But there was nothing. I told myself she was busy, caught in the haze of edits, sound design, festival submissions, interviews. She was building a world from the one that broke us, and maybe I was just the scaffolding. But every day I thought about the way she looked when I held her in that scene. Not like an actress, not like a poet, but like a woman whose body remembered how to trust me. I told myself that it was the work, that it was never personal. But then why did I feel like I'd been left on the cutting room floor of her real life? Like I was part of the draft she didn't have room for in the final version. Then 3 months later, an envelope arrived, no return address, no handwritten note, just my name, typed, like a decision she didn't want to personalize. Inside, a single invitation, date, time, location, first screening. I held the card like it might burn. I didn't know if it was a peace offering, a guilt response, or a final flourish in a performance I hadn't realized I was still in. Weeks of silence, then this. I stood in my kitchen, barefoot, reading the invite like a message from the dead. And for a second, I wanted to ignore it, wanted to prove she couldn't pull me back with paper and a postcode. But I also wanted to see it, to see her, to know if she meant to forget or just couldn't help it. The premiere. I came dressed like a man who had something to prove. I left the shirt undone for enough to be a statement, a little reckless, a little open. The chain on my chest sat like a line I hoped she'd cross, and when I saw her, I nearly forgot why I was angry. She looked deadly gorgeous. Dark ocean blue dress, fitted to her like it had been poured on. A slit at the thigh, revealing that tattoo I traced once with nothing but breath. Her hair was up, her eyes sharp. She didn't look at me, didn't have to. She already knew I was bleeding. In the theater, we sat rows apart, and on screen, us, touching, fighting, breaking, fucking, loving. It played like a memory shot in better lighting, a little slower, a little more tragic. I heard someone behind me whisper, "Damn, that chemistry." Another laughed softly at a line I didn't think was funny when I said it the first time. People leaned forward, I leaned back. They were watching art, I was watching memory. She sat still, didn't look at me once, just faced the screen like nothing belonged to us anymore. And I sat in the dark, shoulders still, jaw tight, wondering what it meant that the only place we made sense was in a scene we were told to rehearse. At the after party, I talked to a few people from the crew. But my eyes stayed on her. Still, she never looked at me. She was at the bar laughing at something he said. Crypto guy. Same smug grin, same hand resting too long on her lower back. And maybe she didn't mean anything by it, but it felt like a message, like whatever we were had already been outgrown. So I finished my drink, told no one, slipped out the door before my own bride could catch me. Already half out the cinema when I heard, "Lucas!" She ran after me, pulled me into an empty screening room, breathless, eyes wide, lips parted, like she wasn't sure what to say, only that she had to say something. I yanked my hand away, not violently, just sharp enough to say, "Don't pretend this is still yours." She looked at me like she expected me to make this easy, and I snapped. "What the fuck was that?" She blinked, didn't answer, just looked at me like I'd said something she didn't have the language for. "You invited me to this thing and then sit through an entire film where we were practically fucking on screen and pretend like I don't even exist and don't even look at me once." My voice cracked, not loud, just done. I was there in every scene, not just physically, actually there. I wasn't acting, this was real, all of it, because I lived that story too, with someone before you, and then again, with you. She didn't argue, just stepped close, cupped my face, like it still belonged to her, and kissed me. I pulled back. "Don't do that if you don't mean it." She whispered, "I do. I meant it before, but I was scared because it felt too real, and I didn't think you felt the same. It wasn't right making what we have professional, but you are the only one I felt safe enough to do it with. I knew you would catch me every time I fell doing these scenes." She kissed me again, slow this time, deeper, like she was pouring the apology into my mouth. I kissed her back, hands sliding alongside her waist, like I had been waiting for this since the first damn second I saw her tonight. Slowly, my thumb found its way to that small bulge on her chest. She wasn't even wearing a bra, and I felt like we both had the same source of inspiration for our outfits tonight. She sighed against my lips, not from surprise, but from finally letting go. We unzipped each other like opening a secret, unbuttoned, untucked, every motion heavy with want and the ache of almost losing this. She backed me down to the carpet, climbed over me with bare thighs and steady hands, her dress falling around us like velvet smoke. And when I was inside her, nothing about it felt rushed, or stolen, or scripted. We both exhaled like it was the first breath after drowning. We moved slowly, desperate but tender, just real, and ours. When it was done, we lay there for a long time, still half-dressed, pressed against each other, like the rest of the world had gone quiet for once. Her breath slowed first, my hand rested just below her ribs, where the heartbeat lives. No one said it, but we both knew. This time was different, not rushed, not reaction, not aftermath. This was knowing. Eventually we got dressed. She smoothed her dress down, lipstick reapplied with a grace I'll never understand. I buttoned my shirt halfway, left the rest undone, open to the heart, the chain still resting right where her mouth had been. She slipped into her heels, asked me if she looked presentable, and gave me this look, like we don't need to explain this to anyone. We stepped back into the after party, like we hadn't just fucked in a screening room. Shoulders straight, eyes clear, heat still humming between us. People turned, but I didn't care because, for the first time, she was beside me, with me, her fingers laced in mine like a promise. We walked in like the hottest fucking couple in the room. Not because we tried to be, but because, for the first time, we weren't pretending anything. And I think everyone saw it, but more than that, she did, finally. The after-party dragged on, but we didn't. We'd already said everything with our bodies once. Now we just wanted the quiet version. She tugged at my hand as we stepped out in the night. Didn't ask, didn't need to. We walked a few blocks in silence, her heel clicking rhythms against the pavement, my coat thrown over her shoulder because the air had teeth and I didn't want her shivering for anyone but me. When we reached her place, she unlocked the door without letting go of my hand, flicked on the light, dropped her heels in the hallway, turned to me like it wasn't a question. I kissed her before the door even closed shut. This time was slower. No show, no pressure, no strangers sitting in rows watching us pretend. I undressed her like I had time, like I'd earned it, like I wanted to learn her again in the hush of her own space. That dress, God, that dress, fell to the floor with the softest sigh. I traced the lines of her tattoo with my lips, again and again, until she whispered my name like it was a secret and a solution all at once. She pulled me into the bed, and we fell in like we'd always been there. No noise, just breath and warmth, and her legs around me, my mouth on her shoulder, her fingernails reminding me she was still here, still real. We moved in sync, we stayed close, and when we came, it wasn't desperate. It was quiet, like an answer, like the part of the film that never made it to the screen.